Hi there, and welcome to this episode of Write With Me at IELTS Juice. We have a report this time, and this one is an interesting one. The rubric here says, the charts show the percentage of energy produced in the USA and the UK, which is the UK, from different sources. Okay, and as you can see, we have two visuals, and the visuals are pie charts. Now, I am looking at the visuals. All I see is, or actually are two labels, sources of energy in the US and sources of energy in the UK. No other information is given other than the labels, of course, on the pie chart, the percentages. We will get to that later on. When I look at the rubric or the topic here, well, again, it says the pie, it doesn't say the pie chart, we should say that, but the charts show the percentage of energy produced. So it's the amount of energy produced using different sources. The meaning of it is that, for example, the US used 34%. Let me correct that. The US has natural gas, and natural gas is used to generate electricity. We understand that. It's a fossil fuel. Yeah, you burn it in the process to get energy and to release its energy and generate electricity. Now, the US generated electricity. 34% of that electricity generated was through burning natural gas. That's the definition we're dealing with right now. So let's have an understanding first. But my question remained unanswered. Can I say which year it is? No. Is it limited to any certain geographical locations? Yes, only the US and the UK. Any other places? No. Okay. When I do not know that which time frame it is, when this visual is, based on the data from which I don't know, survey, what are we going to do? Well, you know the answer already. When we choose our sentences, we cannot use past simple because it's not past. We don't know which year. We cannot say future or future perfect because it's not prediction. We cannot use present perfect because we don't know since when until now. That again means duration. So all these grammatical tenses are useless to us. Forget them. The only grammatical tense that is suitable throughout this response is going to be present simple. Why? Because present simple has a feature that talks about facts. And these two visuals are giving us facts. Remember, IELTS always presents us with facts. In many cases, IELTS doesn't want us to question its facts. So, and certainly not in task 1 reports. So we are not going to question the data we have here. We are going to present them as facts. Present simple, all the time, it is. What next? I need to start my very first sentence. I discussed some of it already. We already know the type of visual. There are two pie charts. We already know that there is no focus on time, but there is a focus on the USA and the UK. Good, so two geographical locations, but no time frame is given. And the third thing is that what they show And we know they show sources of electricity generation. So these are how many sources there are? I can see 4 sources and some other, but there are at least four sources. There are minimum 4 sources. There are 4 main sources of electricity generation in these 2 countries. Their distribution is presented here in percentage points. All right. And then I need another sentence. And as common in our Green Apple videos for Task 1 reports, when we come up with an overview, we write 2. So one overview goes to the introduction and one overview goes into my very, very last paragraph. Okay, here we are. Now let's look at the 2 pie charts and their numbers and the distribution of these sources. We have natural gas, coal, nuclear, and all renewables, plural and vague, meaning unclear. There's also a very tiny little portion called other, which we just gonna leave it at that. We're gonna get to that in a moment. So, as I can see, the highest percentage in both countries is natural gas. That's a similarity. You can focus on that. You can say natural gas in both countries consumes or the consumption of natural gas to generate electricity is the number 1 source for electricity generation. That's one sentence. You can go over there. You can write other in the overview of the last one, and you can say again, another similarity is that other sources doesn't make up a very meaningful portion of electricity generation in both countries. That can be my both overviews. Are there any other overviews that are a little bit more challenging and fun? Yes. For instance, in both countries, you can say that more than half of the electricity they generate comes from burning fossil fuel sources, namely coal and nuclear gas. Interesting, right? That can be one very interesting overview that I'm going to use. If you wish to choose the path of differences, not similarities, because I already said that natural gas is number 1 in both countries, other is not important in both countries, you can choose a different path of differences, and you can say the order in the UK is very different from the US. Although they both start from natural gas, the UK's second reliable source for generating electricity is renewables, then nuclear, and then coal, while for the US, coal is the second, then nuclear, and then finally renewables. Well, I think we're okay now. We now need to get to the body paragraph section. So what am I going to suggest? Great. Now, why am I introducing 2? You know that there is a safe approach. We have 2 visuals. You can devote one to the US and one to the UK. Okay, and that's it. And in the US, you can start by saying, oh yeah, it starts by natural gas and it's the number 1. Then it's coal. So the US's focus is more on fossil fuel energy sources, and that can be a very good topic sentence. So US starts, the US focuses more on fossil fuels or fossil fuel sources. So then you start talking about natural gas, and then coal, and then nuclear and renewables are in the bottom of this paragraph. That's the US. Another paragraph can be about the UK. And this is safe, but the UK's topic sentence is that, all right, the focus in for the UK, although it starts by natural gas, you can say that the focus quickly shifts to renewables and the nuclear, and coal is the least energy source. All right, that can be also another way to organize our sentences. And this is safe. You can present this, you get your score. Not very high. You know why? Because there isn't much chance to compare. You only report the data. You can report the data completely. That is fine. But if you see closely at the rubric at the bottom, it says summarize the information. Absolutely. By selecting and reporting the main features. That's what we did. And make comparisons where relevant. That is the part we cannot do, or if we do, it's not going to be very challenging here. So instead, my suggestion is to go for 2 paragraphs still, but one is about fossil fuel sources for electricity generation in both countries. And you talk about natural gas and coal and compare them. You can say natural gas is the number 1 for both of them at this percentage, that percentage, while the UK focuses more on natural gas, the US is slightly less. And you can quickly move over to coal and say, however, the US gets its electricity by burning coal in 30%. So not in 30% of cases, but like 30% of electricity units they generate comes from coal. This is not the case for the UK, which is almost approximately half of that in the US. You can make comparisons here. You see, now I'm comparing. I'm saying which one is higher, which one is lower, which one is almost half of the other, which one is twice as the other one, which one is more, which one is less. I am comparing. And as I'm comparing, I'm reporting the data. And there's a logic here. This is just focused on fossil fuels, natural gas and coal. And this one, you guessed it correctly, is going to be about renewables and nuclear. And I can pretty much do the same thing. Renewables play like 15% role in electricity generation, while the UK receives a quarter of its electricity by renewable sources. You don't have to say renewable sources. It can be hydraulic turbines, it can be solar panels, it can be wind turbines. We don't care now. It can even be some turbines that move with tides. Your decision, but my suggestion is not to say the names. Don't write any information that is not available on the visual. And move on to nuclear, which is relatively similar, relatively speaking. It's the UK is only 10% lower than the number for the US. Put all these sentences over here, make comparisons again with these numbers, and the last part, other, do not forget that. Do not forget that it is insignificant, but it plays a significant role in your IELTS score. So 1% versus 2%. And you don't have to say other, what other means. Just say there are other sources which play an insignificant role in both cases, in both countries. And you can report and say that, yeah, one or maybe 2%, 1 to 2%, that's not a significant number. And you can write it as the last sentence. This is the layout that will help you get a higher score. 2 body paragraphs, but instead of focusing on the visual per paragraph, my suggestion is to focus on the category and then compare both pie charts in the category, then move on to the other category and compare them once more. If you wish to see a sample on this, done and improved, click over here. If you wish to see other videos like this with the little green apple, click over here, and remember, eat healthy.